kick this off. So, Paul, what we were going to talk about technology, artificial intelligence, in relation to us as human beings and our well-being and business and the rest of it, which I think sort of quite neatly sort of fits into that particular discussion we were just talking about. And I guess this is in the context of us starting this dialogue, going back to the beginning of this year, talking about leadership development, realizing that a lot of it was complete nonsense, and basically we are spiritual beings. So what are your thoughts on the impact of technology, artificial intelligence on people?
Well, I think technology is agnostic. I mean, sort of like, technology is, if you go to Genesis, we were told to have dominion over the earth. And so, a spade, a rake, a rock, which Cain killed Abel with, those are all tools, those are all technology. I think that, something that's close to your heart is that it appears now that technology seems to have a greater hold over the collective human psyche than it has in the past.
Yeah.
With the advent of the internet, with digital, with mobile phones, and with social media.
Yeah.
And with the businesses that control that, which, both you and I heartily agree, are not advantageous to human flourishing.
Yeah.
So AI, it's kind of curious. I mean, I'm a copywriter, and I always said, computers will never be able to replace what a human can do. They can't come up with ideas. Actually, they can, right? I mean, I hate to admit it, but I don't use it anymore. But I bought a subscription to copy.ai last year, and AI can write better copy than a mediocre copywriter.
Yeah.
So if you get a good copywriter who programs it in and then takes what the AI does and then just polishes it up, and
yeah,
that's pretty much what I've been doing, and it's frankly terrifying how good it is.
Yeah.
One of the things that you'll see on LinkedIn is you'll see some rather weird images which are AI generated, and some of them you can't tell, but some of them, they have this weird ugliness to them. And I think, to your point, this is where AI reveals its soul, if it has it. It's just like, you can't, it's like pornography. You can't define it, but you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the soul of a machine. And it's like, you go, ugh, there's something about that.
Yeah.
And at this point now, everyone's boasting about, oh, look what I did on AI. But, they'll come to the point where they're going to stop doing
that.
Yeah. Look, overall, I'm a big fan of technology. I'm a fan that sort of like, technology is the reason you and I have a friendship, a business relationship,
yeah,
an ability to long distances. I think tech, the simplistic level, tech is almost like money. It's a great tool as long as it serves you and you don't serve it.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I think my take on this is it comes back to what we started talking about. What are we as human beings? I think we are spiritual beings that fundamentally should love God and then love other people, and from which everything else flows. And to be honest, that's the sort of basis of, you were talking about attracting the right clients. That's the sort of basis from which you start attracting the right clients in terms of the way you interact and stuff. I think what we're facing at the moment is a rather bizarre situation where the amount of control and that we're witnessing from technology is quite substantial. For example, there's now a tool called Replica, which is effectively a tool to provide you a sort of online coach to wake you up in the morning, say, how's it going, and sort of try to steer you in the right direction, which obviously picks up a huge amount of information. And I think, the other one is one that actually, if you pay a bit more money, you can have a relationship with one of these things. And, for disabled people or people who are lonely, potentially, from a starting place of really feeling pretty desperate and lonely, this, because it triggers dopamine and serotonin and presses all the right buttons, can maybe chemically lift you out of that place. Now, my concern with that is, frankly, we talk about the Holy Spirit, but actually this is almost like replacing the Holy Spirit with something else, because, the underlying interest of technology is around control of your attention. So whilst I totally agree, the fact that you and I are on this call makes it possible with Zoom and all that stuff, I don't see there's a problem with that, because it's not ideal. We can only see a certain amount of each other. It's better to be face to face, but to be honest, it's pretty effective, because we wouldn't be able to have this communication whatsoever. So I think the normal linear stuff in terms of communication between ourselves is pretty straightforward. It comes down to what's actually taking place, and I think people, the underlying sort of dialogue behind this is pretty disturbing as well, because the people who are running these companies are very, very cogent and very bright, but they're thinking, so for example, that the thinking of a chief exec I heard the other day from Replica was talking about that they felt it was good for loneliness. Now, I really don't think we have anywhere near enough knowledge to make that assessment. And at best, I think it's far more likely to be addictive. So I think, what does good look like? I think, what I'm realizing at the moment from a company turnaround perspective is that ethics do not come from machines. It comes from a connection with God. It comes from a connection with other people. And it's only by having an intimate connection with other people, we've got half a chance of, steering the ship in the right direction. And that's what I call logos centered leadership. It's more than just a connection. It's an intimate connection between people. It's about caring. It's about listening to what people are saying. And it's also about, when people have dialogue, are we actually interested in what other people are saying? And, we're taking sufficient interest to actually be willing to learn something and do something new. Otherwise, what the hell is the point? And the flip side of that is, I've noticed, I'm not particularly well connected with a young community around where I live, but I've noticed there are two individuals who have become completely derailed and frankly become quite evil, or done some pretty evil things on technology and social media, which surprised me. And I looked at these people and I thought, actually, where do they get their spiritual well-being from? And do they get their kicks from the cheap things that you and I and everybody falls foul of in terms of pornography or drugs or whatever, or alcohol? Or do they actually get, and if you've got this sort of technology plus those sorts of things, and you've got a really quite a toxic mix without any sort of ethical basis. So I think it really comes back down to really understanding that we've got to develop the communication between us, we've got to develop the logos between us to give us half a chance of getting this right, without which we are frankly knackered. And even, talk about sustainability. This whole, people are still talking about growth. And actually, it's vitally important to understand, and growth is an interesting one, because Jesus said, to appreciate what you've got is a gift from God, without which you're on this sort of I want more type thing, which is which the Bible defines as a curse. And I think there's an awful lot of people in that place who are in that mindset and have no idea how to get off it. And the tougher things get, the more people the more they look after themselves in this sort of technological bubble, when in fact, the Bible says love God and love other people, which is the opposite. It's about, in fact, practically, forget anything biblical. Going back to Socrates noticed that the world operates collaborating locally as well as globally. Even in Socrates' day, his influence was global, which is just bloody amazing. So
yeah,
I think they're my concerns. I think.
Yeah, broadly speaking, I'd agree. I would just double down on my position that technology is agnostic, and yes, it can be used for nefarious purposes if that's how it's been designed. but Jesus Christ is on the throne, and everything is under dominion of Him, even technology. Up in that satanic YouTube algorithm, which I was like, wow, that must have been God. I really feel that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that we're in a post-Christian era where people don't realize that people don't. I think the assumption people have now is that it's up to you to decide how you're going to make sense of reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's okay. And it's like, well, no, actually it isn't, because it's, before there was just this, when people went to church and there was a right way of doing things and a wrong way of doing things.
Yeah.
And obviously that wasn't perfect, but it's a lot better than what we have now. And I heard Douglas Wilson say an amazing thing about tradition. It's a way of maintaining things that we've forgotten. It's a way of maintaining things we've forgotten how important they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you've got tradition, it's almost like when you've got tradition, you don't even know what you're holding on to. But what you're holding on to is vital to keep, to keep society functioning. And like an example of that is the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
It's like, you stop most people, they won't know what the Ten Commandments actually happen to be a really, really, really good model for society.
Yeah.
But everything's optional now.
Yeah. Well, I think there's the interesting point.
I think it's the spirit of self. I think the idea that you can be God of your own world, which is, that's straight out of the serpent's mouth.
Yeah.
I think it's a culture of self-invention. I think that what technology has done is allowed for an acceleration of isolation, depression, and narcissism.
Yeah.
In the way people use it. And finally, I would just say is that technologists worry me, because, a godly man knows that he has limited control over his life, that God is sovereign and He has paramount control. And technology gives the illusion of control. And there's nothing wrong, right? It's like, yes, of course you could do a lot of great things with technology and you can exercise a lot of control, but you shouldn't extrapolate that out to the idea that, we can control it. I can control everything. Because I think that's what technologists, and that's what the culture thinks now. It's like science. That's why they venerate science.
Yeah.
Because we can control. It's like, no, you can't. God's in charge. It's, I had a sponsor once, and he said, I'm like an ant on a tree that's being swept down river. And because I'm at the front, I'm leaning one way and the other, and I think I'm steering the tree, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's exactly it. We have this illusion of control. Society tells us that, and technology and science amplifies it, but it's an illusion.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think that when I study the dialogue with my winning thinking hat on, it becomes very clear that people do not understand what drives them. So, for example, I heard a talk which was all around AI, and the bloke, who I know pretty well actually, said that people are machines, and that psychology justified all of the rest of his presentation. All of a sudden it made sense, and nobody else picked that up. But it's only because I've got this strange radar I picked it up. I think the other thing is, with regards to technology, what works, you mentioned the YouTube algorithm tends to take advantage of our weaknesses in terms of triggering us, because it's all about controlling attention. If you are running Instagram, you need people on Instagram, for a certain amount of time so you can do something with them. So, and the way you do that is to addict them and tie them into, and TikTok is the expert at that. I think the other point you mentioned in terms of sense of reality, I think our sense of reality is dependent on other people and connection, as opposed to us having, the divine control over our own sense of reality. It's only by having conversations like this, Paul, and the effectiveness of these conversations, or the antithesis, a business which is producing crypto, which is wrapped up in its own little echo chamber, where it's
Yeah,
sort of
or
losing.
NFTs.
Was that sorry?
Or NFTs.
Or NFTs? Yeah, I mean it's just absolute bullshit, really. And I think the other thing I think as well is that language is people. I think we've lost sight of the importance of language. And you talked about AI creating language. Actually, if AI is creating language and it sounds okay, then that is rather weird because Socrates again, he came back to the important, had unbelievable definitions of different types of language, which to a degree we've picked up the significance of in company turnaround situations. So I think language is critical. And your point about being the god of your own world, absolutely, that's a weird perspective. I mean, it's so,
but it's the norm. It's the norm. It's what people right?
It is.
It's what everyone thinks.
I know, but it's
I'm like, praise the Lord, thank God I don't think like that. I know when I did, and I know where that got me.
I know. But it's sort of, it's okay till something horrible happens, or you run out of steam, and it's just it feels a certain certain. I mean, I think it's just it's just destructive. So I think those are the sorts of things, and I think for me, what am I doing about this? I'm bloody pleased to actually run a whole raft of game changers because it's actually going some way to join the dots and logos-centered leadership. Without that connection between us, businesses are all over the place ethically, and they're based on lies, frankly. And interesting, CEOs do not know what's driving their business. And when I've done this work with the Big Four, they're utterly unaware because they're so familiar with it. The dialogue in those organisations and how that the implications and how that creates blind spots and creates silence. So I think, and I think the other thing.
Well, there's also how much do you know about Girard and mimetic desire?
Not a great deal.
Oh, I'll send you a couple of links. I mean, basically, we all it will take you a long time and a lot of development to start really wanting the right things for you. And this is why Christianity is so powerful, because Christianity is a brute force intervention into mimetic desire. If I took you to Cocaine Anonymous meeting in Buckhurst Hill, right? Everyone would be sitting around wearing the latest Nike sneakers and Rolexes, right?
Yeah.
If I took you to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in Lexington Avenue, people would be sitting around wearing Ferragamo and Gucci shoes and Patek Philippe and Breakaway watches, right? Now, what we all see that. But the thing is, what we want isn't what we want. We always want what other people want.
Yeah.
It's never what we want. It's like we want what someone else wants. And that's why social media has been a massive amplifier of that. The person who recognized this and wrote about it was a French philosopher called Girard. And that's why, and it's huge. It's like, that's why Cain killed Abel, right? Abel had God's favor and Cain wanted that.
Yeah.
It's as basic as, if there's a kid, if there's a little baby, right, playing with toys, and there's 10 toys, then another kid comes in. The kid that comes in wants the toy that the first kid is playing with. Doesn't want any of the other toys.
Yeah.
It's just hardwired into us.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to break out of that. And unless you understand, like the smartest people in advertising know this. That's why that explains influencers, that explains celebrities in advertising, that explains aspirational role models. It's like, we brainwash people into what they want.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're incredibly, I'm my own worst victim. I mean, I'm sitting here with branded everything. It's like this is one thing on me. Trying to think: shoes, underwear, shorts. Yeah, you name it. Advertising people tend to be their own worst victims.
Yeah.
But the great thing is, Christianity says, no, it's not about you. It's not about what you want.
Yeah.
It's about obedience to Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah,
so it breaks that intervention. And it's not easy. And that's why, following the Lord is not for weaklings.
Yeah. I mean, I think that on that point, I think the hardest selling point of Christianity is it's our lives is not about ourselves or glorifying ourselves. It's about glorifying Jesus. So there's
no immediate gratification. Where's the immediate gratification?
Yeah, and that also includes our suffering as well. So if somebody's suffering, everything is to the glory of God. So so there's, and I think actually for me, that is the answer to get your heart in the right place. It's the way to put things in perspective. And I think during my journey, I've realised, and I'm like you, and I've spent the GDP of a small African nation on cars, fast cars. That was my thing. Not branded cars, interesting enough. Well, some branded cars. I like Porsches. I like Mitsubishi Evolutions, and some Mercedes. But the point I think, and there's an association but now I now drive really two crap old TDI Volkswagens, Paul, and I've never been happier. And I appreciate far more what I've got than I ever have done. And I think the challenge is when we're faced with things, what do? Do we have control over our own emotions? Do we have that, or have we got this impetuous itch that we can't scratch, which frankly screws us up? Or so I think you're absolutely right. Your point about having control, or external or otherwise, using the analogy you used, I think is very, very important to maintain our sense of well-being, because all we have is the present, and as Jesus said, tomorrow will look after itself.
Yes, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. I read that this morning, came up my Bible study. It's my favorite quote from him. The other thing is that this culture places too much reliance on feelings, and what the path of the Christian is like, as Ben Shapiro has created a whole industry on, fuck your feelings. You feel about something really isn't that important. I mean, you can't discount it entirely, right? Obviously, you can't discount your emotional state, but it shouldn't. It's paramount. Again, in this culture, it's paramount.
Yeah.
How you feel about something is the most important thing. It's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing about recovery, as I always tell people, is I need to know what to do when I don't know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if I don't know what to do, I can call my sponsor, and he'll tell me what to do, because there are recovery principles, and recovery principles are basically a distillation of Sermon on the Mount. It's like Christianity without Christ.
Yeah.
It's like Christianity light. And invariably, one of the things that I learned really on in my recovery journey is that when something happens, what I felt like doing was the polar opposite of what I should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, okay, whatever I feel like, I'm not fucking. It's like, I obviously am doing that.
Yeah.
As soon as I feel like I won't be doing it, it's like, no, you will. That's kind of what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah, I know. And actually, on that point, I think doing the opposite of what even if it's almost the wrong thing to do, what that does is it breaks a habit, and then it opens your mind, and you think, actually, that was okay. And that's part of, if nothing else, taking new action is a critical step, because the tougher things get, the more fearful we get, the more we repeat what we've done in the past, which can be interesting. And
it's also a sign of surrender, and it's a sign of humility.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, to be honest, on that point, I think the greatest place to be is a sense of wonder, brokenness, and
gratitude.
Humility. Otherwise, the antithesis of that is, frankly, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And and people and even anybody, nobody can stay still. Everybody has to learn. It's a human requirement to learn. So it's just not an option to stay still. We cannot just do the same things all the time. But that's brilliant, Paul. That's a really, really I've enjoyed that discussion. Thank you. Thank
Good.
you.
I'll just say one other thing for it. It's like, we outsource our sanity. It's only through human interaction
Yeah.
that we figure out, through the conversations, that we discover whether what we're saying and what we're thinking makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, that's why free speech is so important.
Well, that's the essence of logos-centered leadership. That's exactly what, I think is so critical that we're losing through technology, because technology atomizes it, breaks that bond, it reduces the quality of the dialogue. And I think it's all about regaining that intimacy to help us to help each other, to steer each other, in a respectful, loving type of way, so that we're learning and, making sense of the world around us, because we just can't do that by ourselves. So that's great. Brilliant. It's really good to speak to you, Paul.
All right. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Take care, man. See you later. Bye.
Bye.